Hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Brendan, also known as Branmatt, and welcome back to yet another StarCraft II replay. Today here, on this map, Yansu LE, we are going to have Arktos spawning as our blue protoss player down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, against our red zerg player up here in the top right-hand corner of the map, JustinClark. I'm super excited to see this game. This is a game that I heard was really good. It is actually a gold league game. So who knows what can come out of this. I was just told it's super awesome. It has an amazing ending and I have to see it. And so I was like, sure, why not? Let's go check out this replay. And so I'm super excited. It is a little bit longer of a replay, but we'll see in the end what comes of it. So, JustinClark just sending out his first overlords. Obviously, there's only 2 spawn locations here on this map, unless if I'm sorely mistaken. No, there is only 2 spawn locations, and those are right across from each other. So these first overlords, again, just scouting across the map, seeing what they can see. The first drone coming out here now as well. He's not going to go for an early expansion, or will he? He might. He has no spawning pool just yet, and is 15 supply. So let's see, is he going to go for that early expansion? He is sending down, it seems like he's going to be sending down a drone right now, and yeah, he does have it rallied to that location, so I would not be surprised. There we go, we see the hatchery. So he's going to do a hatchery first, and over here in the base of Arktos, we're going to see that that gateway immediately goes down. It's about halfway done at this point, as well as has that first assimilator along the way now. Chrono boosting out probes as well, and also getting out a second assimilator. This could be quite telling for JustinClark, who has quite the rally point system set up. And so he'll be able to see everything. He notices that 2 assimilators are down, so this could signal a very heavy gas play, whether that be early stargates or robotics facilities. He's going to have to continue scouting to see exactly what he does. But there is 2 assimilators down, additional pylons being thrown down as well. That hatchery is about halfway complete at this point, and that spawning pool is about 50% complete as well. So it doesn't look like Arktos is going to be able to get any sort of early harassment without having to worry about zerglings. He is about halfway done his cybernetics core. And lag, that's never good. That's quite annoying. It seems that they're going to pause, but hey, guess what? Replays don't have pauses. That's amazing. So this overlord is just going to travel his way across the map here. He does not actually go into that base. He's going to be able to scout here for a natural. He's probably just going to sit here in this corner, and as soon as he sees that second base come down for Arktos, he's going to be able to immediately know that. And the hatchery here is complete. Probably see some drones created for that sometime soon. We also see that speed for zerglings along its way now as well. Just spawning out those overlords. That drone will be chased out by a zealot. And the cybernetics core is researching the warp gate tech. And here we go, we see the overlord beginning to poke in now. No stalkers have begun production just yet, although we do have a mothership core out quite early. This mothership core might actually head across. I've met with an interesting strategy the other day that I've never really seen used. It was something that was big in Warcraft 3, for anybody who played that, is that in Warcraft 3 you could actually, if you were good enough, and you didn't have an opponent who defended against it, you could actually get a hero out very early on in the game and then harass his workers by sending your hero across the map. Has a ton of health and a few abilities and things like this, and he can go ahead and kill off quite a few workers by himself before getting out pretty much quite unharmed. But the strategy I always met with something similar is the mothership core, which actually ends up coming across the map and harassing drones, which I never saw before. And I was like super wowed by that, because it seems like such an obvious thing to do, especially if you don't actually have that much to defend with. Now, the game I saw in, it was pretty quickly defended off, but you can actually get off 1 or 2 worker kills. Nothing too major, but I just thought that was an interesting thing that was brought up. Zergling's now out on the field though, and it looks like he might actually be able to force a cancel here on that base, as JustinClark has quite a few of those zerglings. If we check in the units tab, he does actually have 18 of those zerglings and 12 more in production. So he's going to have a crazy amount of zerglings. He's going to be able to head in this base here, probably kill off a pylon. As you can see, he only has 2 zealots now as well as the mothership core. The mothership core can get off quite a bit of damage, but nothing to stop this force, and nothing's going to be able to kill that mothership core, obviously, at this point. But there's just so many zerglings. This zergling force is just going to be able to rush in here, dealing off a ton of damage here. He's going to need to try to kill off those zerglings. Those zerglings actually do pull back at this point, and looks like he'll continue attacking here at this base now. Might be able to kill off this base. He's just dealing out a ton of damage. If he just completely ignores the zealots and the mothership core here, he'll probably be able to kill off this base. And the base will actually end up going down here and might be able to get off a few probe kills as well. Also able to kill off or cancel that gateway. So this is quite troubling now. At this point, we only see 3 warp gates for our Protoss player. So, I mean, he has enough to get a sufficient amount of units, but he's focusing mainly on zealots for this force, and he's certainly going to poke up here. There is quite a good bottleneck here for Arktos, so he's going to be able to make sure that the zerglings can't actually push in without taking a heavy amount of losses. Additional overlords coming across the map now, and we do see the double evolution chamber coming down now as well for JustinClark, so he's going to start getting those research and upgrades ready. He only does have 2 extractors up at the moment, with a 3rd one coming along the way. So these zerglings, it seems, are just going to be a small force that are just going to poke around, get any sort of information that they can, dealing out a ton of damage. That early loss on that Nexus could be quite damaging here, because it did complete. It's not like he was able to cancel it, so he did lose 400 minerals there on pretty much a base that didn't mine enough to even equal that out. If the base has mined at least 400 minerals, then maybe, you know, still you don't want to lose that base, but at least it paid for itself. But it ended up just dying off and probably only making a handful of minerals. So not really that worth it. We see a ton of warp gates along now for Arktos, who has 6 total warp gates, and also getting that additional base now. He is going to try to set up that 2nd base now, getting 4 sentries and a ton of zealots here. So this zealot force, as well as the mothership core, should be able to deal just fine with any additional zerglings, as there isn't too terribly many zerglings out here on the field. And he also is now getting his 3rd base up, so the zerg player is going to have 3 bases up, has a ton of mining going on. If we check the income, the zerg player obviously is leading, as he, again, has 2 bases and 3rd one coming along the way, and the 2nd base is just now coming along for our Protoss player. So if we just check around on the map, nothing too major, nobody trying to push at each other just yet. That big push in the early parts of the game was really the only big push we've seen so far, and it dealt a ton of damage, way more than it should have. But at this point, it seems like both players are just going to continue building up their forces, and this Overlord may end up actually dying. Will he get out in time? Oh, no, he does not. So he actually just explodes. This 3rd base is now completed as well, which means for JustinClark, there's going to be a ton of additional mining ready. If we check in here, yeah, he's just going to lead in minerals and gas at this point. He does have all 4 extractors completed, and he's just going to continue spawning additional larvae and just getting more and more units out, probably on the field here. If we check, he does have total of 20 zerglings and is mainly focusing on upgrades. As we can see here, he has drones, but tons of upgrades here for his units. So he's just focusing on buffing up that army, so when he finally does push in, he's going to be able to deal out a lot of damage. Arktos, or Arktos, one of those names, I think I'm sticking with Arktos, is actually producing immortals. He has 2 on the field and an additional 1 in production. These immortals could probably deal out a ton of damage. Oh, and a changeling just getting killed off there. Got a little bit of poking around. I don't know how much he actually saw. Let's see if we can actually switch into his camera view. We actually see that he sees about everything. So about everything that was happening in the... Yeah, place that on a Vespian geyser. So we see that he pretty much saw everything at this point, so he's pretty aware of what's going on, and just has 2 robotics facilities producing these immortals, so that could be quite damaging. And if we look, he has hydras. I don't think he even is producing. He doesn't have, or is not even producing, any roaches. So that those the immortals could be quite effective, but they'd be more effective against the roaches. And uh-oh, there we go. Game paused for just a second there. Never had that happen before. So it seems like these guys will just probably head right across the map. We do see the Spire is along in production now as well, about 75% of the way along. So he's going to be able to get quite a muleless force out here, but it does not look like their Protoss player is going to wait for that. He's going to come out here, kill off quite a few creep tumors, just wants to get those kills off there, and he's probably going to continue into the base of JustinClark and deal out as much damage as possible. So he's going to move in here, again killing off all those creep tumors. Will not get that kill off on that creep tumor. Probably will end up killing this third base here. The fourth base is coming along now as well, so he might be able to make up for that. And so many units being produced at this point, 16 total Hydralisks. And again, he has a ton of upgrades, as we saw earlier. He was just upgrading. So this could be a ton of upgrades, a ton of damage coming out here. And those Hydralisks dealing out quite a bit of damage. Might actually lose that mothership core there, which could be very valuable in the time warps and things like this. Moving forward here, does have the Warp Prism, needs to make it so that he can produce additional units out of it. And does not seem like he will do that. Ends up losing the Mothership Core. Needs to warp in additional units here if he wants to stay alive. Nice force fields to keep those Hydralisks trapped, but that will definitely not keep this army alive. Losing those Immortals so quickly, and it looks like this army for the Protoss player will actually be cleaned up. Might actually be able to get off this natural base kill. That could be so damaging, and that third base actually ends up taking the kill. So he just completely killed off that base here. This means JustinClark only has one mining base, continuing putting up that force field. So good force field here. We'll probably be able to kill off a lot of drones as well. And this base is just now finished up, so JustinClark will be able to mine out of that. The force fields are wearing thin here, and this Hydralisk army could be quite damaging, so he needs to pull out of there as quickly as possible. So, Arktos, we'll go with Arktos, actually ends up taking quite a few heavy losses there, losing most of his army, but those force fields were really good in keeping out that Hydralisk army in just enough time to be able to clean up 2 bases there. Only has 2 bases mining now for JustinClark, the same amount of bases mining for our Protoss player, so it kind of puts him on even footing. As you can see, it's now balanced out a little bit more in terms of mineral and gas collection, but that was super damaging, and now we see these Zealots actually getting here in the base. Might be able to get a kill off on that Spire, and no, that army will get cleaned up there. But getting really close to killing off that Spire. Using that Warp Prism, it seems. He may continue producing units out of that Warp Prism, be able to get additional kills off on these bases, because he's now trying to set those bases back up, and it seems like that Warp Prism will actually be killed off. Huge Hydralisk force now, probably moving across the map. Arktos needs to get additional warp-ins. So, I mean, he's getting up this third base, will try to, but actually ends up with this Overlord here. Is spreading creep, so he will need to kill off that Overlord before he's actually able to set up that base just yet. He needs to continue producing units, because this Hydralisk army here, let's see, is 1-2, so it could be super damaging. 2 in attack, 1 in armor. If we check his own army, though, the Protoss player does not have upgrades whatsoever. So this could be super damaging. This small Hydralisk force pushes in here. Tons of minerals just floating here. I mean, I'm surprised he isn't doing more with it. He really needs to get up that third base at this point, kill off that Overlord. There we go. Now he's going to come along and kill off that Overlord. He needs to set up that third base, and he needs to continue producing units. A ton of minerals just floating. He's about to hit over 3,000 minerals and 1,400 gas. So we need to see that mineral count go way down, because he needs to continue producing units, and he could have a very threatening army. He also needs to start getting upgrades sometime soon as well. If we look, he does have 2 forges, so he does have a double forge, but isn't actually getting any upgrades out of them just yet. His robotics bay just completing now as well, which means he could get out Colossus, which could be very good, especially again with upgrades against these Hydralisks. And if we look, it seems that all 4 bases are now successfully up and running, starting to get drones at all 4 of those bases. So for now, it just seems like both players are trying to rebuild. They're both just trying to get back into this thing. They're both trying to get back in after both taking heavy losses. And congratulations to both players. They both did really good at that. The third base here is about 25% of the way completed for the Protoss player, JustinClark. I would not be surprised if he decides to push in here. Again, such a large and threatening force, and not much from our Protoss player to be able to actually push that back. Seems like 5 changelings one after another isn't going to be very effective, just piling in the corner. He might have accidentally like tried to rally them up here. But he needs to do something with those, otherwise they're just completely wasted. And there's 2 photon cannons down here, as well as 2 in the back, so he just wants to defend that base. That Spire still healing up, but it doesn't look like has he produced anything for it? Yeah, he doesn't even have any Mutalisks or Corruptors out on the field yet, so that isn't exactly useless, but I guess it's just wasted minerals since he's not actually doing anything with it just yet. It may come in handy in the future if he decides to go with Broodlords, especially a little later in the game. And we'd also see High Templars being put into the mix. If he's able to get off good storms, this could be highly damaging. These Hydralisks are coming in now. We'll be able to see this completely undefended base. Might actually be able to get off the kill on this base and might actually be forced to pull back here, as we can see he's pulling back and successfully defending that base. So it seems like JustinClark quickly pulling back, deciding that isn't the best place to engage. We'll probably end up killing off these 3 changelings, and there we go, they are finally killed off. So it seems JustinClark just pulls back, decides not to go full engagement there, as that could have again been seriously damaging to his army. He's also blocking off this 4th base here, which again could be super problematic here for the Protoss player. Getting additional Colossus, he's going to have a total of 3 Colossus, it seems, with a ton of Warpins available as well. So we're going to have to see. This could actually be fairly close. And if we look, now we're actually seeing the Mutalisk's air damage upgrades coming along. Does he actually have any Mutalisks? No, he does not actually have any additional Mutalisks just yet. He is producing an additional base, and this force here is actually moving out. We can see what the Protoss player is attempting to do. He's going to push in here, might actually lose a few Stalkers. So those Stalkers will immediately get wiped out. But pulling back, probably seeing those Colossus and deciding that's not exactly the best idea to engage. He's actually going to spread out a little bit here, so he has his army completely spread out. Very smart choice for him there. Just going to sit at this Xel'Naga Tower and be able to see everything. Notice what his army is doing. About 50% of the way done for JustinClark on that additional hatchery. And this force looks like it's going to be moving in here, killing off a lot of Hydralisks. So those Hydralisks just split off. It seems like a lot of Hydralisks just wasted there. Additional Hydralisks being killed off now as well. And if we look in the production, he has 31 Mutalisks on the way, and it looks like this Hydralisk force is just quickly cleaned up with those storms, and storms doing awesome damage, just completely wiping out most of those Hydralisks. And we're gonna see, just gonna continue moving across this map, and 30 Mutalisks now out on the field. So he has a ton of Mutalisks. He needs to get Stalkers in here. Might be able to actually kill off some of those Mutalisks as they were misrallied. And it looks like the Mutalisk force are just going to completely ignore them. It looks like they might actually just go for a straight up base trade here. This is going to get wild if we can even get a camera on that many different places at once. It looks like the Protoss player is just going to move in here. He needs to continue moving along or defend one of these bases. The Mutalisks coming along here would take quite a bit of damage from those photon cannons, but with this amount of Mutalisks, it really doesn't matter if there are photon cannons there or not. This Protoss force still moving through the base. We'll probably be able to kill off the layer here in the main, as well as the 2 spires. These Mutalisk force moving out here. We'll probably end up killing off this base here. No defense in sight at all from our Protoss player. He's going to focus his energy here at the front. It looks like we're going to have a full-on base trade. This 2nd spire end up getting killed off. It looks like all these drones and the Queen will end up getting killed off too. So this entire main base wiped out. The Mutalisk force moving along here, killing off tons of probes. We'll probably kill off this natural base as well. We don't even have a 3rd base from the Protoss player. So it looks like the Protoss player will actually end up just not having any income at all. If we look at them, both of them have been severely hindered, even though JustinClark is leading with everything, because at the moment our Protoss player has no units whatsoever. I mean, it's still just a very small amount of income at this point. And it looks like the Phoenix are severely delayed. Phoenix at this point are very delayed. There's no real reason to even get them, especially with everything being wiped out. It looks like he will focus his energy on these Stargates and these additional Zerglings. These Zerglings trailing along will be able to deal out a little bit of damage as well. Might be able to pop out a Phoenix, and there we go. The Phoenix are actually able to get out. Rallied away. The Mutalisk will clean up these final. He needs to cancel these last 2 Phoenix, or we'll end up losing the minerals and gas there. And it looks like this Protoss force is going to move along the way here, end up killing off this third base and probably a lot of drones here as well, recreating that spawning pool, but we'll lose it right away, killing off a ton of drones. It looks like no drones will actually be able to get out of here. There's only one, and a secret base from JustinClark here wants to stay in this game, knows he has a big Milos force and will be able to wipe out a ton from the Protoss player, wants to stay in this game as long as possible, does not want to lose all of his structures. It seems like all of his structures are lost except for this last hatchery, which the observer has already spotted. So all this Protoss player needs to do is move in here, kill off this last base, and bind this base to be able to kill off JustinClark. And JustinClark is going to continue moving through the base, killing off as many structures as possible. If we look, there's no actually additional structures coming along here for our Protoss players, aside from that pylon, which is placed there next to creep. So, I mean, the Zerg player knows it's there. Zerg player is going to clean up everything. We'll probably head across the map and might get off a kill here on that. The Protoss player at this point knows that something's up. He needs to scout with that observer and find out that this base is here. If this base completes, this could be very bad. And he's going to be able to create a few more if he decides to. I mean, he has 4,000 minerals. He's going to need to defend this pylon. If the Mulists come in here and are able to just kill off this pylon, then we have a complete and total win. This army splitting up here, which probably is not a good idea in a situation like this. Mulists and Zerglings also heading across the map. They want to see if they can spot everything. They're going to kill off all these assimilators and pylons. All our Protoss player needs to do is find this final base and kill it. We look at Mulists moving across the map. The Protoss player is being revealed, so obviously we're going to find out that all he needs to do is just kill off that final pylon as well. These Phoenix are just going to be quickly cleaned up. Mulists killing off that last pylon and these two last assimilators, and this Protoss player needs to defend those structures. An additional pylon coming along now as well. JustinClark will move out. Will he be able to get off a kill on it? No, he decides the Protoss player is actually going to pull back and decide to defend this pylon, potentially. If he loses that pylon, it could be severely damaged. Again, the hatchery now under attack from a ton of zealots here. He might actually lose this hatchery. A ton of Zerglings and Mulas streaming across the field. This could be extremely close. Will we actually see the win? Which player is going to win? And it seems the pylon is killed off. And did that come down to just 29 health? That came down to just 29 health. And there we go. Both of the players, it seems, have left the game. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Now I know why that had to be a crazy game. That was super close. Wow. Congratulations to JustinClark. It seems like JustinClark's still here. He's picking up his jaw from the floor and probably taking his heart rate, you know, trying to find out what his pulse is. Hello, JustinClark. He's probably just trying to figure out what just happened, because that surprised me just as it surprised anybody else. I don't actually preview any of these games before I cast them, so I'm just as surprised as anybody else when I see these things, and that was super close. 30 health, and then hatchery ends up getting away. Congratulations to JustinClark for pulling off an amazing win here. Both players did pretty well. It was a little bit of a back and forth game, killing off these bases, and it just seems like it just came down to that pylon and the hatchery, and that pylon was killed off slightly faster than that hatchery. If that hatchery was found any earlier, I'm sure our Protoss player would have won, but congratulations to JustinClark for taking the win. That was an epic game. Please share this game, because this game deserves to be seen. It's absolutely epic. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like the video, maybe even favorite this amazing match, and of course, be sure to leave your thoughts about the game in the comment section down below. I'd really like to know what you think, because that was an awesome game. And be sure to subscribe to the channel as well. That's awesome. You get to see all my new content whenever it comes out. Thanks all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.